Hi everyone, my name is John Greger and I am part of the marketing team at Lakeside Manufacturing. I'll be your moderator for today's presentation. And on that note, I'd like to welcome everyone to the College and University Trends mini webinar. Before we get started, I just want to remind everyone that you are all on mute, and that said, we'd still like to hear all of your questions throughout the presentation. So during the presentation, please enter them using the GoToWebinar questions tool in your tools section and submit them that way, and stick around at the end to hear the answers to your questions. On that note, I will start off by introducing Nancy Lane. She is our Senior Designer of Visual Merchandising and Product Concepts for Lakeside and Multiteria. Previous to that, she was the Education Development Account Manager with a major food service equipment distributor and was responsible for over 3,000 national accounts in both the K-12 and college and university markets. In her career, she has played a vital role in remodeling college and university dining facilities to enhance customer experiences, improve operational efficiencies, and increase revenues. Today, as a member of Sandstone Group's Food Service Division, she helps her client partners capture missed sales opportunities, maximize profitability, and increase customer satisfaction and repeat business through improved food merchandising. Nancy is currently active with NACOS and SNA by providing members with design consulting services and speaking engagements. She has also served on the NACOS Board of Directors, the Industry Advisory Council, and various other committees. She is currently serving on the Industry Advisory Council for the School Nutrition Association, or SNA. You are in for a real treat with our mini webinar today discussing trends about college and university food service. And she's got a lot to get through, so I'm going to turn it over to her. Nancy, take it away.
Thank you, John. And thanks everybody for joining us today. This is interesting, talking about the trends, and so we're going to jump right into the first to kind of give you an overview of the top trends that we're going to be talking about today would be sustainability, plant forward, labor efficiencies, transparency, the new normal, food insecurities, and infusing digital. But the things that we want you to walk away with is understanding the 2019 food service and food trends, helping you execute some of these ideas that we talk about today, and then also to developing a retail roadmap for success. The first one is sustainability. This is a big one. That's why we put it up as number one. With the waste and energy, composting, some of these trends that we're seeing, and zero waste, there's also some solutions that you can start thinking about is recycling, composting, best practices, and multi-use equipment. In our industry, we account for 1/5 of all the waste in the U.S. is totaling 63 million tons each year. Of staggering 40% of that is fresh produce that goes into the trash. We saw the war on straws in 18 and 19, and we will certainly see some future in 2020 with some different things in sustainability. There is some research that's been done that students waste 112 pounds of food each year on the campuses. They waste less food at breakfast than lunch and dinner, and most of the food waste happens at dinner time. So there is some universities that are offering the tasting spoons at all the stations, and they are seeing less plate waste. Starting off with sustainability, we're going to be talking about composting. You're starting to see a big trend on that on the campuses, and also too, living walls are coming back. It's very green. And then you've got your reduce, reuse, and recycle. And here's some reclaimed wood that's being used for shelving. So that's just some of the things that we're seeing in the sustainability. And this is a fun picture. This is a compost van. So give the artist the paint, and he's very creative, and he ended up putting this on the van. This van goes around the campus at the University of Montana Dining, collects all the compostable materials, takes it out to the compost pile for the gardens to be used. Here is root to leaf cooking. Very interesting. So you're taking the whole vegetable and you're using the whole piece. So this would be an example with broccoli. So what they've done at Cal Dining, they've adjusted the recipe to ensure to use the whole vegetable. They're reducing the food waste. So they take the broccoli stalks, they trim those up, they use them in the slaw, and then they also roast the tops as roasted broccoli. Same thing could be with carrot tops. Great example. Toss those into a salad, use it as a pesto, use it on pasta, soups, or also a flavor enhancer for mayo. You know, you could also do it with asparagus. Think about it. You've got asparagus trimmings that you're going to toss in the compost pile or in the trash. You could boil those down and make them into a pesto. So there's a big move for this root to leaf cooking. You'll see more of that. And also, too, zero waste. There's a lot of campuses that are focusing on that zero waste. Plant forward. Well, this trend is out there. It's been around, and it's here to stay. And there's all the buzz right now. I know it's been on the campuses for many years, but you're starting to see more plant-based products coming out. There's also, too, flexitarians, you know, the eating habits. Some of the solutions that you can embrace right now is new tasting menus, garden to plate, you know, adding more vegetarian and vegan. You're starting to see that as a great option. So with your plant forward, though, you're going to see this deepen its roots even farther in 2020. There's more exotic fruits and vegetables from around the world that are very interesting in flavor. And so you're going to see more plant-based proteins and meat alternatives coming in the next year. I know on your campus you have some flexitarians, but sometimes people don't know what a flexitarian is. And that's primarily a person that's a vegetarian diet, but occasionally they'll eat meats and fish. You know, there's an interesting, at Princeton, they have a program which is called the Tiger Chef Challenge. It's an interesting, they put a team of 4 together, students and a chef mentor, and they compete like a chop style contest. And whoever makes the best plant-forward dish using the secret ingredient, which they use mushrooms, which was supplied by the local mushroom council. So that would be just something interesting and fun. Plus you get some fun recipes out of that. Everything in the bowl. I've been talking about this now for probably the last 6 years, that, you know, we see everything served in a bowl. And now there's protein bowls, IKEA bowls. And it's interesting, the bowl down here in the left bottom of the slide, that is made of 100% wheat bran. So it's similar to the cereal that you have in the morning. And it's biodegradable, compostable, disposable dinnerware. So you're starting to see a lot more of these eco-friendly disposable pieces coming out that are easy to break down in the compost pile. Here's a great example of a lettuce kale. This also can be called stem lettuce, asparagus lettuce, or celery lettuce. You're starting to see this trend just like the Brussels sprouts and kale was one year. Well, now they have this lettuce kale. But it's interesting when you start using some of these international vegetables or fruit to make sure that you understand how to use them in cooking. Because sometimes if you blanch or braise them, they could become bitter. So do a little bit of research when you're bringing these into campus. And here's another trend that we saw over at Aviante. Aviante is a design show. In 2017, it was full of all these fresh herbs. It's over in Frankfurt. And so now 2019, we're starting to see the fresh herbs being used over here. And I think you'll see more of that. Again, you'll take the basil plant right out there when you have your tomatoes and the mozzarella, and you can take it right fresh from the plant. So you'll see more plants being used and herbs. And the farm to fork, this is really interesting, but the Gen Zs have been pushing this, and they're used to it. So they're your customer that you have on campus right now that you've had for probably 2 years. And they're coming in again, but they are used to the farm to fork local. They understand their food. They're more in tune with the food than ever before. So you'll see that big push. And also, too, flavor stations. With the Gen Z and the USDA pushing back on sodium, you're going to see this generation they're going to have less sodium being used. And so they are demanding more flavor with their spices, their herbs, and their sauces. So I think you need to kind of understand this generation that's coming on campus are going to ask for more flavor profiles. Labor efficiencies, wow. With the shrinking workforce, minimum wage increases, there's a lot of things that you're going to have to start looking at. You're going to look at equipment being multi-use equipment, adapting to the robotics, utilizing technology in temps. There's just so many different things that are changing. And transparency. You want to show me the cooking, you know, the menus, the ingredients. Here's some great examples of a cart that's over here on the bottom left. Manufacturers are looking at ways to make more efficient, easier use equipment. And so the equipment profile is really changing out there for the next couple of years for the manufacturers. So here's a great example of a cart. It would have a push-pull handle. It'll make it easier for the staff to move things around. The one in the center is adapting to the robotics. So it's got Sally the salad robot, and then one person could man this with the soup station. So again, you're starting to see different things being used to be more efficient with your staff. Here's another great example of a self-kiosk. With the self-kiosk, you could see that these are being used across all the restaurants and now on campuses. And I had an opportunity to visit with the university here in the Midwest. And while we were up there last month, we were talking, and they said, you know that we've increased our pickup and delivery and mobile apps and kiosks, and we're seeing a 30% increase in that market. And they said, but less error. And that's because the customer's placing the order. So if I don't want onions and tomatoes on my burger, I'm not going to check that box. So they said it's making it faster and more efficient because they're not having these errors. And here's another great example of watching the footsteps and watching people when they double up on things. So if you were to go in a banquet room and you're going to clean something and then you just throw everything in the bus tub and then it goes back to the dish room, it's like you're doubling up, you're touching it twice. So here's a great example of manufacturers and plus directors looking at ways to make it more efficient. They're watching that footstep. How many times do they do something? Is there a way that we can cut that in half? And this would be a great example. Pre-sort it while you're pulling it off the table, take it back to the dish room. Transparency. You know, it's in a digital world that the information is on demand. It's out there all the time right now. You know, they want to make sure that they know what they're eating, when they're eating it, and if it's safe. And also, too, with the allergens. And it's very important because the consumer is taking back the control. They want clean labels. They want food safety, natural ingredients. And also, too, they want the things that are solutions for you with making sure you're aware of the allergens. You know, create, again, the ingredients, the sources, where it's coming from, and align your brand for transparency. They're really wanting to take back control on their food. But here it's about allergen awareness, and there were some shocking numbers that I ran into this last week. You know, from 07 to 16, less than 10 years, there has been an increase of 377% of food allergies. 32 million people have food allergies or food sensitivities. The common aid for the U.S. is milk, egg, peanuts, tree nuts, soy, wheat, and fish, shellfish, and sesame. In Europe, they have 14 allergens that they recognize. And to add to that list, they've added celery, mustard, and sulfite. You know, in the back of the house, you need to make sure that you have training, you have a dedicated area, you might have a color choice for your cutting boards and knives, and also, too, that you have a dedicated space on your shelving in the walk-ins and the freezer. And you want to use the top shelves, not the bottom shelves. You don't want stuff to drip down. And also, one of the big ones, you know, I've been talking about allergens now for the past 8 years, is double check with your customer. You know, when they say I have a peanut allergy and you make their plate, when you hand it back, double check. You said you had a peanut allergy because they may have forgotten something, or you want to make sure you have the right allergen that they are watching. And the peanut allergy is on the rise again. So this has become very serious, and there's a lot of things that you can do with training. Clean labels. So what's a clean label? It's a consumer-driven movement which is demanding a return to real food and transparency. Food products containing natural ingredients, and they want to understand and pronounce no artificial ingredients and no synthetic chemicals. You know, it was interesting. I was out with my sister, and we were talking about, you know, that it says 4 ingredients. She flips it over. She goes, yep, 4 simple ingredients. That's it. So it's going back to the real food. Here is a great example of hydroponics in farming. It's taking the plants and having the roots exposed, and then they're fed. It's got a water solution which has the fertilizer in it, But the interesting part, I've been to some of the dining halls, you walk out in the back and you go into the container, and it's wonderful. You see all the produce and all the fresh herbs and lettuce that's being grown. But the interesting part was that it's 25% faster in producing and 30% more than plants in the ground. So the same plant can produce 25% faster and 30% more. The new normal, we're going to pitch that out the door because it's all changed. It's eat wherever, whenever, and what you want, and whatever you want. Meal kits, delivery, takeout, breakfast all day. Some of the solutions is back of the house operations, grab and go, and the back of the house footprint too for delivery and pickup. At the university, we were talking about the apps and the kiosks. They have now dedicated more space for pickup and delivery than ever before because of the 30% increase. And here we show, again, the box delivery. I know some of those are showing up on campuses. And grab and go. Grab and go's been around, but it's very strong right now, especially with the new normal. You're seeing here, this is a great example of the green box being used for meals to go. They want to be able to take their meals out. They want to maybe take it back to the dorm. They want to have it for later and maybe take it in another area that they want to study. So again, the green box has worked out very well. It's very sustainable, eco-friendly. Plus, it's letting the meals to go. We've got, the University of Cal Dining. It may be they buy the box one time, 5 points. They bring the box back and it's dirty. They'll wash it for them and give them a new one so they can continue using it. Here's another great example of grab and go. The grab and go is expanding. You're probably seeing double more in the cases and larger cases being used now for grab and go. So as people are grabbing something, they want to take it for later. They want to have it when, in the evening. You'll see people double up or get 2 or 3 meals. Food insecurity. Wow, this is amazing. So we have on-campus banks, Swipe Out Hunger. And then, some of the solutions would be a share program, using leftovers, farmers markets. We're seeing more of the farmers markets on the campuses, and rooftop beehives. There's over 800 million people that live every day with hunger and food insecurity as a constant companion. There's a staggering percent of students across the nation that are unable to have regular, affordable, proper nutrition. And they're unwilling to seek help because of the stigma. As a result, it affects their studies, it affects their health and their well-being. This growing awareness now it's really out there. So everybody is talking about it. It's been around for a long time, but people would never think of a college student having to be food insecurity. And 1 in 3 students face it every day. Swipe Out Hunger is an organization that partners with the college campuses nationwide and to end student hunger. Here's a great example. I had the opportunity to visit with this campus. I was on campus for 3 days. It's the University of Central Missouri. It's probably about 5 years ago, at least, when I was there. So they've been rolling out this program for probably 10 plus years. They rely on their volunteers to go around and pick up the food. That is really key and important to them. This program, though, as they rolled it out, this is the same location on the campus here is the cupboard. And so they do keep the data of how many people come through, who and what age, so they can compare from year to year to see if they've got an increase or a decrease. But this all really started when Beth from the Student Center received a call from the park board. And the park board in the area said, come pick up your students. And she said, what are you talking about? And he said, we have students living in tents and we're getting ready to close for the winter. And that's when Beth said, we've got a problem. We need to address this. So they did put a program together. And the interesting part of the program is there's no questions asked. There's no forms to fill out. All you have to have is a student ID or an employee ID card, because you can see there's some higher age people on the list here. And it's 10 items, whatever you want to take out. And so it's a really neat program that they've put together. But there is a lot of campuses facing this. Infusing digital. So we're going to wrap this up now, and this is with robotics. There's so many things out there collecting data, and you can see that some of the solutions are going to be embracing smart equipment, taking small steps toward, technology, and again, customizing it. You'll see manufacturers getting into this. This trend is moving faster than we can keep up. It's amazing how fast this is moving. And here's a great example too. You have the cupcake sprinkles with the University of Southern California. It has 1,000 cupcakes and it's like an ATM machine. And then to the right, you have the vending pizza machine. There's like 70 pizzas in there. So it's 24/7. You can get a slice of pizza. And the new one on the block right now down at the bottom, that's called Blended. And that's a robotic smoothie machine. And so Chef B is what he's called, can make up to 36 smoothies in an hour. And it can memorize your smoothie for later. So you'll start to see more of these robotics really getting into the food technology. Here's at George Mason, they have the robots that deliver on campus. There was 25 of them that were dropped in January on campus. And so they've seen this robotic move on the campus delivering food. But the interesting part was that they did a research that showed 88% of the college students skipped breakfast. And that's because of lack of time. That is turning around. They're seeing an increase of breakfast because you can call the robot, have your coffee and your bagel delivered to the sidewalk, and off you go. And the other one here is that one of the Big Tens is the University of Purdue. They brought in the robots, and they brought in 30 of them just last month. So with the robotics and everything changing, you're going to see more of these trends. And I think that, some of the trends that we'll see for 2020 that's going to be really strong will be more in the robotics, and watch the food allergies, because that increase it's not going down, and you'll see more of that. And I know John's got a few questions that he's going to go over, but I do want to say thank you again for, joining us. These are our mini webinars, and hopefully you can walk away with a few tips and ideas.
Thanks, Nancy. That was a great presentation. A lot of information packed into that presentation. Really interesting to see what's coming down the pipeline here, and what's going to affect the college and university food service department. And we do have a few questions, and if anyone else has a question, please go ahead and submit it. We have a little bit of time here to cover them all, so I'm going to go through a few questions right away, but go ahead and submit them through the questions tool in your dashboard tools. The first one I have, Nancy, has to do with food allergens. The question is there any allergen awareness certification that my food service operators can earn? Sounds like it's important that they understand what to look for. Any certification that you know of?
Yeah, there's a lot of different organizations out there. One of them is ServSafe. ServSafe has put in an allergen training program. So if you jump on their website, you'll see a lot about that, and that's an easy one to do online. And then also, too, FAIR has a training for allergens, and AllerTrain is another one. So there's quite a few different organizations out there that can help with the training and certification. And you will need it for ServSafe.
Awesome, great advice, thank you. The next question I have has to do with kind of the demographics that we're seeing on campus now. The question is, what impact are millennials and Gen Z having on college and university food service?
That's interesting. Thank you, John. Or thanks for the question. But the Gen Zs are driving the millennials crazy because Gen Zs are a little bit more laid back, and the millennials are faster paced. But the interesting part, when I was at the campus up here in the Midwest, we were talking about that. The millennials changed this whole way food is being delivered, and the new normal. And now the Gen Zs want to change it back. You can't. It's went too far. So it's going to be interesting in the next couple of years to see what happens, and that's what the campus is watching right now. So
Great. Wow. Nice insight. And I have one more question here, and it has to do with some of the serving containers that you mentioned earlier in the presentation. This question is, how quickly is the payback on the green boxes compared to purchasing traditional disposable containers? So I think this person just wants to know, how long does it take to make up the difference by investing in the green boxes and going that route instead of with disposable containers. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you. It's depending on your disposables too. I think you need to do an ROI on that, but it is the green thing to do. It's very sustainable, it's eco-friendly, and at time it does pay off not having all those disposables. If you're going to zero waste, this is probably one of the things that you'll have to look at, some form of container that would be, that you could use again and again. The challenge with some of these manufacturers are challenged by the university is to figure out ways to go to zero waste. And so, Cliff Bar was one of them, great packaging. Now they're getting a pushback from one of the universities. How can we get to zero waste? So with the green container, I think, you'll see your payback at some point, but it also will help with your sustainability. And also, too, if anyone has any ideas or tips to share, please send those in. We would love to hear from you on what's working for you and what you're seeing as trends.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great idea. Anyone who wants to just add it in the chat box or the questions area of your toolbar, please do that. It will be recorded, and we'd love to follow up with you and have a conversation about that as well. That concludes the mini webinar, unless you have anything else, Nancy?
No, I just appreciate your time today, and thanks for joining us. And hopefully you'll walk away with some tips and ideas. And if you need, you can email any of us, and we'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thanks, Nancy, and thanks everyone for attending. We look forward to seeing you at future webinars. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks.